Hello everyone, back again, MMA video now. So there's a topic I really want to talk about. I'm going to talk about Nick Diaz later in the week. Feels like I haven't spoken to you lot in a long time, actually. It feels ages since I spoke to you. I think the last time I spoke about MMA was Ronda Rousey, and that's not that long ago. But with the way MMA is and the way it moves and the speed that it kind of goes at, things happen so quickly it feels like a lifetime. But one topic I want to talk about is based off of an announcement made this week concerning Anderson Silva. Now, there was a lot of speculation as to who he was going to fight. Michael Bisping was one name, but he lost to Vitor Belfort. Hector Lombard was another name last year, but he lost his first fight against Boic. Beat Palhares, then lost to Okami, so he's not going to be in there. Brian Stan was another name that was being put in there. Luke Rockhold was another name being put in there. And then obviously there was talk about him fighting George St. Pierre, but then that never materialised. And people were talking about him fighting John Jones, but that's not going to be till like the distant future. So for right now, people are saying who's he going to fight. And the one name that has been coming up a lot has been Chris Weidman. And it's come out now that Chris Weidman and Anderson Silva are going to fight each other. And I'll tell you what, I was a bit surprised when it happened, because Anderson Silva seemed reluctant to do the fight. If you watch an interview with him on Fuel, they asked him and he didn't seem too enthralled or too caught up in the idea. He was just like, oh, okay. And if you've seen interviews with Ed Soros and his other manager, they don't disregard him as a fighter, but they're trying to say, and I think what they were getting at is, Weidman doesn't have that marquee name and that name value with the audience just yet. His name's not built up and not big enough where it's a huge fight, business-wise. And if Anderson loses, he loses to a guy that the whole world doesn't really know outside of the die-hard MMA audience. And I believe that's what they were getting at. And I was shocked when he got the fight. No. I could see him getting the fight, but I was still a bit stunned when I heard it. And here are my thoughts on that. And this kind of plays into another topic as to who can beat Anderson Silva, the Anderson Silva-Weidman fight, and the middleweight division as a whole. The Weidman and Silva fight, first of all. I think Weidman will be a interesting fight for him. I think on paper he's got a good style to beat Anderson, wrestler, with some grappling. But I think that Weidman still needs seasoning. He still needs more experience. I mean, he beat Tom Lawler by submission, I believe. He fought Damian Maia on 10 days' notice, lost 30 pounds to do that fight. Looked good against Maia. Maia's very good at 170, by the way. Nightmare matchup for a lot of guys in that weight class. He fought Mark Munoz, which is the fight that put him in the map amongst people like us. And that kind of moved him into that echelon of names, in his weight class. And to me, I felt that he needed maybe 2 more fights, or maybe, 2 or 3 more fights before you put him in there, because this is a guy that's on the rise, and if you throw him in there too fast, too soon, you kind of hurt yourself for the future, and this seems to be a guy for the future. So, to me, fighting Mark Munoz and Damian Maia are good steps to move you in there, but to fight for the title, if you're basing it on, getting a pathway, which is what I'm getting at, and selling all the audience on that pathway, I think that Weidman needed to have a few more fights. I also think he was the victim of bad scheduling, because his fight against Munoz was on a weekday where not everyone was always available and not on a particularly big show. And I think what would hurt him is he'd kind of get put in that Frankie Edgar territory where he's a great fighter and entertaining to watch, but could have been promoted or effectively utilised to help build his name. Maybe put on as the semi-main event of a big show where his name gets out there and he impresses and people begin to talk about him as well as the big main event. And I think that's what they could have done with Weidman. Unfortunately, I think that was going to happen when he was going to fight Tim Boic, because I believe that was on quite a big show, and then unfortunately he got injured. And he's coming off an injury now. He's going to be fighting Anderson Silva. I don't know. I mean, again, I said he needs seasoning. He needs building up as a name. I'm not disregarding him as a fighter. I like Chris Weidman. Do I think he should be fighting for the title right away? I think he needs 2 more fights. That's just my opinion. Do I want to see him do well? Yes, I do. But again, against Anderson Silva, it's like he needs something, that little thing extra to help boost him up. I tell you what, he's talking the talk. Because he came out and he said, look, I'll smash Anderson Silva and I'll give him a rematch. So that's a good thing, in terms of promoting the fight, if he's talking that kind of talk. We'll see what happens. As far as Anderson Silva and who can beat him right now in the middleweight division, there's a lot of things happening in that weight class. I know guys like Bloodstained Lane have touched on this, and they've said that Anderson is an elite level fighter, but he needs to be fighting elite level fighters. And guys that can legitimately be believed as giving him problems and probably beat him. And a lot of people are saying that he's beaten some excellent fighters like Rich Franklin, Dan Henderson, very good fighters in Chael Sonnen, and guys like that, and Vitor Belfort. But then he's also had his record padded out by guys like Tyler Zlates, who's not particularly great, Patrick Cote, and guys like that. And people want to see him fight the better, Stefan Bonner, Forrest Griffin. People want to see him fight elite level guys, or you know what I mean. You know what I'm getting at. And it looks like potentially the 185 weight class is going to have some new challenges for Anderson now with the Strikeforce merger. It looks like we're going to have, well, it doesn't look like we're going to have, Jacare de Sosa is one name that springs to mind that I think would be an interesting matchup for him. He needs to be promoted and he needs to be put on some big shows that people get to know him. Being a Strikeforce fan, and God rest that promotion's soul and dream, I'd seen Jacare before, and he is one of these guys, these jiu-jitsu guys, that is made his way into the sport, really done really well, but also adjusted to the other elements of the game. Like his stand-up is actually quite good. I saw him have practically a kickboxing bout with Tim Kennedy, and he looked really good out there. I've seen him in other fights, and he just looks very, very good, very athletic, very good style, very weird-looking man, but a very good athletic style. I think he's quite old, though. I think he's in his mid-30s. I could be wrong. But a guy that, if he keeps progressing, he would be an interesting challenger to an Anderson Silva. I think that would be a great fight, actually. Another guy is Luke Rockhold, a.k.a. Ken Masters. What do I think about Luke Rockhold? I like Luke Rockhold. I've heard that he's got a lot of untapped potential that we haven't had the chance to see. People say that Luke Rockhold has been set back by injuries. I know he was out for almost a year at one point, and that's one of the things that's hurt him in terms of building his name and really getting us to see what he can really do. I saw him fight Tim Kennedy. I thought he looked solid in that fight. I saw him cream Keith Jardine, but who hasn't these days? And he's going to be fighting Vitor Belfort, and it'll be very interesting to see what happens there. It's almost like, I don't know if it's like a win, no-win situation, because if Rockhold wins, great, they've got a new contender and they built up a new name in Luke Rockhold, but they could have what happened with Michael Bisping, where this is a guy that could eventually be a very marketable fight for Anderson Silva, but you're going to put him in there with a guy like Vitor Belfort, who might just cream him, and it's going to hurt your plans. Which leads on to another question. What about Vitor Belfort? Could Vitor Belfort possibly get a rematch with Anderson? If it was a close fight like the Chael Sonnen fight, I could see people saying, yeah, alright, he could get the rematch, but it wasn't. Silva kicked his head off with his big toe. Vitor has tried to rebuild himself a little bit, and maybe he could get that rematch, we don't know, but it'll be interesting to see what happens. Anyways, look, I'm drying out. It feels like I've got so much to make up for, and again, guys, I'm so sorry I haven't been able to do as much. If this video has made any sense, thank you for sticking with me and watching the whole thing. I'm going to upload this video. So guys, you let me know what you think about Weidman, Anderson Silva. You let me know what you think about the middleweight division and guys like Jacare and Rockhold and Kennedy and anyone else coming up. You let me know if you think there's anyone at middleweight that can beat him, because I think there's more guys outside of the weight class that have a better chance. But you let me know if you think there's anyone in that division. And guys, just let me know what you think in general. Tell me what you think. Write your comments. If you haven't seen me before, hit that subscribe button, rate, share, comment, do what you like, do what you will. I need to get to bed because I got to get up very, very early, and I will see you all very soon. Take care, and thank you for your patience.